Mr. Wendell, thank you for asking. First of all, let me thank all of you for coming tonight. I had asked them just to throw the questions away and let's just shoot it from the cuff. There's a lot of spaghetti being thrown on the wall, and I want to try to answer any question that you may have. Try to give you documentation for that. I brought some, didn't bring it all, but at least enough that we can have a good discussion. The question that Mr. Pepper poses is the Juban North extension, which we've all heard a lot about. One of the issues that we are constantly faced with is trying to get to I-12 and then, of course, moving across I-12. Juban extension is something that we have the engineering already done on, a road that we looked at that would tie Juban Road itself into Lockhart, which would give us another direct avenue straight to I-12. I think it's a good project. I wish we would have had this project on the board when we started with the Gustav money, because we might have could have got some funding for that. I'm in support of that project, Mr. Pepper, as you know. From day one, it's a matter of getting the project funded. It's already been laid out, or it's already been surveyed, already been looked at. We're looking at quite a few $1 million to get it built. The first step, of course, would be buying right-of-way for it, and that's going to be the first thing that we're going to have to do. I think the biggest issue involved in that particular project is the railroad crossing, and anyone that's had to deal with the railroad knows that's kind of a tough project, but it's not to say that it cannot be done. So I, too, am on board with trying to get that extended. Okay? Folks, you got me. Now's the time to ask.
I guess this is kind of working with you. I've had some people in the last few days that I've talked to, and they're kind of confused about jail. Why we closed the jail thing, why that, and I think that needs to be cleared up. Because I try to explain to people, it's like the old city hall in Denver Springs. When that building was abandoned and had to be brought back into, with the grants and stuff, it had to be brought up to code. And that building, the old city hall in Denver Springs, which was built in the EPA days, probably cost in excess of around $1 million to redo that. Would you kind of touch on the jail and explain to people what actually happened so we can clear that up so people don't understand it? We just couldn't put prisoners in the old prison because, first of all, you had to go.
Well, you go answer the question.
I think it needs to be addressed.
I'm only picking at you, and I do appreciate that. You know, there has been questions about the old jail, but let me address it by saying this. I don't know how many of you have built a new house and left the old house standing, but we moved out of the jail because we simply had to. We didn't have any choice. The old jail was dilapidated, way out of style. A lot of the mechanics, the boiler room, the heating and cooling in the old jail, nothing was working in the jail. We were under an order to get out of the jail. And as you remember, we came to the public and asked you to help us rededicate a tax to try to build the jail. Now, in doing so, before we ever moved out of the jail, we looked into a work release program. We had a committee that looked at that. We brought in the state warden that came look at the jail to see if it was a possibility of having a work release program, which would in fact benefit money for the parish to try to help pay for the jail. I have a letter. You can look on MikeRimmer.com under the jail, and you'll see the letter from him that simply says the jail is too far gone, too dilapidated. It would cost too much to take the jail to bring it back under code. We had 150 beds, 160 beds, I think, in the old jail, and we're almost up to 650 in the new jail. And of course, as you know, the new jail is pretty well full. But the reason for tearing down the old jail, we were paying insurance on it, but we simply couldn't do anything with it. We had the juvenile detention people come out and look at the jail and see the possibility of leasing it from us for juvenile detention. That too fell through because of what it would take to remodel and bring the jail back up to specs. The plumbing was gone, the electrical was gone, the heat and air was gone, the building just simply was falling to pieces. So there was no need for us to keep the jail, we just simply couldn't use it. And I'll take another question.
Did the council authorize you to tear the jail down?
No, sir, the council did not authorize me to tear the jail down. I took DPW, we didn't bid it out, we took DPW and tore the jail down. What we could save from the jail, we took and bid out and sold as surplus, you know, the stainless steel tables, sinks, and stuff like that we could save from the jail. But the council did not authorize me to tear the jail down. Okay, folks, let's go. Yes, ma'am.
I have one question. What are we going to do about the dog situation here? Because I know the animal shelter in Denham won't take our animals, and they're just getting possession. And we have the animal shelter there. What's in place to get the animal shelter up and running?
Okay, the question is about the animal shelter, and let me clarify as much as I can about the animal shelter. We looked at a couple of avenues to try to fund the animal shelter. We're certainly watching Walker and Dune Spring spend, you know, $600,000 and above for their shelters. Our shelter only handles about 20 to 25 dogs, although it looks bigger than that. What we're handling right now is dogs that bite, vicious dogs. When we get a call from the sheriff's office, we do respond to those and we do pick those up. What we will have to look at is to try to find a funding mechanism to fund the animal shelter. Now, talking to Tangible Ho, there is, looking at what they do, they actually fund theirs through the health department. And I think that the new council and I should sit down and look and see how they're doing theirs and to see what the possibility is of doing ours. The problem is it's not really that big of a shelter, although it may look like it, it doesn't have that many animals. But that's certainly something that we should address. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Mr. Lovett?
I've got a problem with the quorum of the council being broken up. That's just that real, I guess. We're paying council salaries to be council. And they're on the payroll of the parish. And I don't see where they voluntarily decide they don't want to handle public business anymore and just get up and walk out. So what can be done to see if they do earn their paycheck for having this council meeting?
And let me clarify a couple of things because I get asked this question all the time. People think that the parish president is actually over the parish council. That is not true. There's two different forms of government. There's the administrative side, which is what we do, the day-to-day operations according to the Home Rule Charter. And there's the side that makes the laws, that makes the resolutions, that makes the extensions, that makes the things that I have to enforce. As far as them getting up and leaving the meetings, Mr. Lovett, I think as a council, they have the right to do that. We should hold them accountable for that if they're not holding their votes, but they absolutely have the right to get up and walk out if they choose to do so. I'm not real sure what you can do as a citizen other than lodge your complaint about that and expect them to do differently. The parish president has no authority on the Home Rule Charter over the council to do that. And there was a question over here. Yes, ma'am. I think there's some loot people here tonight. As all of you know, we have a public hearing coming up on the 7th, isn't it? Correct? Beg your pardon? December the 7th is a public hearing.
December 5th.
December the 5th. What is the date?
It's the 5th and the 7th.
It is the 7th.
5th through the 7th.
Okay, it's the 5th through the 7th right here.
It's here and then on the 7th.
Okay. So it will be the 5th through the 7th, and that will be your time to come voice your opinion about the loop. There's been a lot of controversy about the loop. My position on the loop in the beginning was a very good position when we had all of the parishes tied together. I thought that it was a true loop. As they began to move the line on us, I had to deal with a different group of people every week. We ended up with the final route being only, as far as I'm concerned, only a part from Walker that would go up through Watson, cross over, and go into East Baton Rouge. So I don't really know how we can call that a loop. The loop that was going to tie East Baton Rouge, West Baton Rouge, Iberville, and Ascension suddenly diminished and turned into what I feel like at this point is a truck route. If you look at the trucks on the interstate, you look at them trying to get around Baton Rouge, to me right now, the way the thing is proposed, it's only a truck ride. So I think we need to be at the public hearings. We need to voice our opinion. I think we have stood strong on our position on the loop. We'll continue to do that. But now we need you, the public, to come out and voice your opinion on that. So that will be here in Denham Springs. I think at Denham Springs High School, at the gym, from the 5th through the 7th. So come prepared to voice your opinion. That's what those public hearings, comment times are for. Okay, next question? Yes, ma'am?
What about the Section 8 housing and the Section 8 apartments that they're wanting to build in this parish?
Okay, somebody.
Section 8, not HUD, Section 8 housing, low-income housing and low-income apartments they're wanting to fill this parish up with.
I think I was very clear on what I thought we should prepare ourselves for. When you look at Livingston Parish, we're 465 square miles. We're huge. We're rural, and we're prime picking for low-income housing. We've stood against the Section 8. We've stood against, I am not against ownership of a HUD home. I've never been against ownership of a HUD home. We have a lot of homes in this parish that are financed through HUD. What I am talking about in the Watson case was 150 acres of a community that's going to be within a community. I just didn't feel like that was a good issue for the parish. I definitely didn't feel like it was a good issue for Watson. I didn't feel like it was a good issue for Walker, and I took a stand. That's part of the beating that I'm taking right now, but I'll take it again tomorrow because I believe that our way of life in this parish, we've come a long way. We've invested in our schools when we had nothing else to invest in. Our crime rate compared to parishes around us is way down. Our quality of life should not be outmeasured by one community destroying another. So my position is to oppose it. I think we need to be on guard for it and keep an eye open for it and attend the public hearings, attend the council meetings when it's presented, and then voice our opinion. Yes, ma'am.
How did the crossing apartments get built up around Walker?
The crossing apartments, you got that documentation for me? Because that's one that I know that I have been wrathed about, so let me give you how that come about. In the cases where I have been asked to issue a letter of support, I have not done so on either project. On the crossing project, we did look that up this afternoon. Let me try to get that for you and I'll read it to you. I think we're going to find it. Let me look at it also. Thank you. Okay, on February the 9th, 2006, the Livingston Parish Council met in regular session, duly called, advertised and convened a regular meeting place, the Parish Council office, on Thursday, February the 9th, 2006. In those minutes, this is a reference to an agenda item that is called a crossing, which is the particular project that you were talking about. In the minutes, the Planning Director, Donald Burgess, stated that the Livingston Parish Council Planning Commission recommended approval of the preliminary site plan of the crossing apartments. LP Resolution number 06-064, a resolution supporting an application for Louisiana housing credits submitted by Juban Interchange Partners, LLC, to finance construction of affordable housing. What it continues to say in the minutes is the Juban Interchange Partners, LLC, is authorized to express the Livingston Parish Councils to support and approve the project proposed to state officials. That project came before the Planning Commission, came before the Council, and was supported by a resolution of the Council. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Mr. Burton, did you sign off on that?
No, sir. That was a resolution for the council. As most of you know, I do not sign off on resolutions. I sign off on ordinances. If I am asked to give a letter of support, as I was on the other two projects, I chose not to do so.
Got a question of, what's the, right you in the back there?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to know if anything is being done as far as the Hooper Road extension. There's studies that have been made that that has been the most feasible to do in this area. And a Hooper Road bridge over, another bridge over our river, the Meeks River. And also if you're planning or looking at maybe widening 447 north, since there's so much traffic now. I mean, are you even looking at any of that or promoting that?
Well, yes, ma'am. Let me answer both of those questions. We certainly look at Florida Boulevard. We look at Walker North, Walker South. Unfortunately, those are DOTD projects. Those projects are backlogged, as you know, one on top of the other for projects like Walker North to widen. We are in support of Hooper Road Extension. That project has been on the books a long time. It's been continuously pushed to the back burner. Now there's been some money allocated for Hooper Road Extension to do the feasibility study, which would give us another bridge on the northern end of the parish, which is a project that I certainly would support. That project would come out in Livingston Parish, roughly just north of the grocery store there in Watson. So I would support that project. That would be, to be clear on that, that would be a toll if that was built by private money, simply because DOTD does not have the money to build those kind of projects. And folks, if we're going to start looking at those kind of projects to build, we're going to have to find a mechanism to pay for it. DOTD has a backlog that will never build that bridge. If I answered your question. Okay? Yes, sir.
It's been said that you want blacktop roads, that you want asphalt roads in the parish. You want to figure that out?
Yes, sir, I will. Did we bring the list? Okay, in 06 and 07, 06 and 07 is on the website. That's what they're doing. They can't look at the website tonight. 06 and 07, we did one of the biggest overlay programs in parish history. If you will go to the website, it will show you we overlaid as many roads in the rural areas as we did the city, as we did the towns. We're continuing to do that. As you know, we bonded $60 million to overlay those roads. We also bonded to build the jail. Part of that, paying that bond back, because we borrowed that money at like 3 to 4%, which was a good bond issue at that time. We now have to pay back right at $5 million a year to pay that bond off. As sales taxes increase, certainly that will also increase. We do have an overlay program this year. We are meeting with the contractor tomorrow. We have some that we just simply have some serious questions on. To answer your questions here. Any other questions?
There, Jimmy?
I'll miss somebody. Okay, Jimmy, I'm sorry. The lights kind of on.
Actually, kind of double. One, where do we stand with, as you know, we're blessed in Livingston Parish to have some of the greatest waterways anywhere. Literally, you ride all day in this parish and never pass the same place twice. Where are we, one, with the river cleanup that we were promised, not from you, but from others? And the other question I would have for you, and this has come up from some of my friends in the southern part of the parish, the Garyville Northern hurricane evacuation route, where are we with that?
Okay, let's take them one at a time. The question is on the river cleanup that we talked about before the BP oil spill. That money is still intact, Mr. Purvis, to answer your question. The Coast Guard is still guaranteed that they're going to do that project. It is my understanding that they'll have the web page up and out for bids within the next couple of months. Keep in mind, we announced that 2 years ago. BP Oil came along. They drug all of the Coast Guard out, but they are now back on the drawing board to do the river cleanups for us. I am sure that some of those targets have changed. I'm not sure what they're going to do about going back and verifying those, but the money has not been moved from Livingston Parish, and we're going to still continue to get funded to do that. We hope those bids will be out within the next couple of months. The Coast Guard guy's kind of getting scared to tell me anymore, because every time he tells me, it changes on him. but at least the money has not been taken away from the parish. So we'll do that. The Garyville Northern is a route that we have talked about many, many times. We were trying to get funding. Number one, as bad as you hate feasibility studies, that is the first step in any project, any highway project to get. We just received the funding to begin the environmental study for the Garyville Northern. So that first step is now funded for us to take that on. I think that would be a tremendous project for us to take for an evacuation route from the lower part of the parish to bring it right up to the center, right back up to the town of Livingston, so, or to the I-12. So we're behind that project. We're seeking funding for it. We just got the money to do the first stage of it. So that is underway. Okay, any other questions? I can't see those lines. If you see someone, let me know. Yes, sir.
Is the minor league baseball stadium still alive, or is that a dead issue?
No, sir, that's pretty well a dead issue. You know, when we started talking about baseball, we started talking about villages and everybody went bananas on us, and I understand that because we pay enough property taxes. We have looked at, you know, our first step was to talk to Nolan Ryan back in 04, 05. We went to Round Rock and looked at that baseball stadium. We certainly would love to have something of that magnitude. We certainly have a group, Mandalay, that is interested in coming. Nolan Ryan got vested in with the Astros and is not able to do that deal. But Mandalay certainly is, and if we can find a mechanism to fund them, then what will come with them, much like Bass Pro as an anchor, would be some kind of recreational facility on that same piece of property. So to say that it will be built with villages is not a go anymore. We would love to have a baseball stadium. We just have to have a mechanism to do it. Okay? Yes, sir.
Did they discuss in any way the price of tickets for the ball games that will be held?
You know, Mr. Lovett, I've looked at Nolan Ryan. I mean, it's amazing the price of tickets for baseball is less than going to a movie. You can, as a family outing, I've just been appalled at the price of even buying an event for the whole year. Season tickets is extremely reasonable, but the issue is getting the stadium built. Once we started talking about a stadium, we started having water parks and other entertainment districts that were interested in coming with them. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to get that off the ground just yet. We can find a way to get them here and build without a millage, and that's what we certainly want to do. We have no entertainment for our kids, and I think that's something we certainly need to be working toward. Juban Crossing is only going to bring some entertainment. They're certainly going to bring a movie theater, an outdoor Greek theater. At least our kids will not have to cross the river to go to a movie anymore, but I think we're looking at about a 25, 26 screen theater there at Juban Crossing. That's only part of it. We need more entertainment. All the feasibility studies show that we're in a perfect seat. When you look at Texas, when you look at across all the way into Florida, we're sitting in a perfect bird seat to do that. It's a matter of getting that tool together. Okay, any other questions? Yes, sir.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, you mentioned, you used the term funding mechanism 2 or 3 times tonight. Funding, everybody knows that's tax. Is there any plans in your future to present to the people of the parish any other kind of tax that we might be looking at to fund these funding mechanisms?
No, sir. When I say funding mechanism, let me be clear. We were talking about a millage. The millage is off the table. As you know, a millage has to be voted on. Okay, so we're not going to put that on a proposition to build the stadium. There is other ways to build the stadium, through state economic and development, through parish economic development. There's other ways to do it. If we can raise funds to do that, it will not be a tax.
You're talking about like TIF districts?
No, sir. I'm just talking about if we can get money from the state, if we get money from the baseball teams themselves, from the owners of the baseball stadiums, that's what we'll try to do. So I'm not talking about proposing a tax. I'm not proposing a tip. However, I know you and I went head-to-head on Bass Pro tip, and I think it's doing pretty well. But I'm not proposing that with baseball stadium, if that answers your question. Okay? Let's round them up. ready to answer any of your questions. Right, when you look at North Park, which I think is a beautiful facility, that's all part of the parish actually created that district, and there is a board that represents that district. Those folks chose to build the water park that you see out there now, which I think is a fine facility. I think it's a state-of-the-art facility for our parish. And part of that, building the libraries, building the DMV building, all is bonding capacity. And what Marshall is asking is where we were and where we are now. And we were not rated for bonds at all. When we built the health unit, we actually had to put money up in an account as collateral to build the health unit. Today we're sitting with a AA-, which is only 4 other parishes in the state of Louisiana that have reached that bonding capacity, and we're very proud of that. The entities that fall under Livingston Parish, such as North Park, is able to use that bond rating to secure bonds to build things like North Park. Also the park in Watson, I think, chose to do the same thing. So our bonding capacity is very important for all of those entities that are under us, much less what we do. As you know, the clerk of court, Tommy Sullivan, and the judges are looking at building a new governmental building on the back of the campus. That was used, our bonding service for that was used, our rating was used, and we got some excellent rates on our bonding to build that building. So I'm sure they will be started with that building pretty quick. Yes, ma'am.
Looking backward, can you explain to us what's going on with the debris issue? And secondly, looking forward, where do you see Livingston Parish?
Well, we need about 3 or 4 hours to talk about that one. But let me assure you, I have not changed my position on the debris. The debris is a very serious issue when you talk about indebting this parish for 40 to 50 to 60 million. I have a couple of letters here that will verify the fact that we felt like, or the monitors felt like, that it would go as high as $90 million. And folks, when you think about $90 million, that's a bunch of money. And what we're faced with is, and let me clear this up because I hear this all the time, that the government sent us a check for $42 million. It sat on my desk and I chose not to cash it. Simply not true. There was never a check. The second thing I heard was, well, we should have took the money and bankrolled it and waited for the audit. The government's not going to give you $40 million to draw interest on until some court case is heard if we owe it or not. All of those are done through what is called express pay. Express pay is a signature certifying that the information that you're signing for $42 million is accurate and it's up to date. And that you can prove through documentation that what you're asking that $42 million to pay for is legitimate and that we owe it. And in the case of $42 million, folks, just think about that being before you to sign to certify your name when we know that we had issues. Where we're at now is waiting on the final decision from D.C. In the appeal. Once that decision comes down, which I think we have too much ineligible debris to come in our favor. Once that comes down, and then it goes, I would assume, to court, and we would deal with that from there. But I can tell you, they are municipalities being audited right now on express pay. So just hang on. Express pay is a very dangerous thing. Ask the mayor of Avita Springs. It's real easy to sign your name, get the money, pay the contractors, everybody go home, and 2 years later, the guy that signed on the dotted line is sitting at the table with the legislative auditor and FEMA to say, you owe $40 million back. I would rather you be frustrated with me with making the decision and taking a firm stand now than to be frustrated with me when everybody's gone home, got their money and happy to say, what were you doing? Folks, that was not a popular decision. I don't have any family on payroll. There's about 3, maybe 4 Grimmers in this parish. I don't have anybody that needs a job. The decision that I made, if I would have signed that PW and paid everyone, I probably wouldn't have an opponent today. I probably would have a war chest in my campaign. But guess what? When the audit comes, and it's just like your personal income taxes. If you fill out your taxes today and you cheat, or you charge something off that you should not, that is ineligible, you will be audited and they will come back and they will collect. Now, how are they going to get $40 million out of a parish that doesn't have it? Has anyone seen the IRS walk away on taxes that you owe? They take your checking account. They'll take your property. They'll take your house. There's no way in the world that FEMA's going to walk away from us owing them money back. What they do is take your federal grants, your state grants, your road, take whatever means they can. Right now, Livingston Parish has better than $60 million worth of grants. They simply take every fund that we get for a grant until we pay that back. So where are we looking at in the future? I think we're in a very good position. I would have loved when we stopped, Julie, when we said no, let's don't go any further. Hand me that, and let me go ahead right quick. I would have loved to pay contractors. I actually thought that we could slow it down, take a look at it, maybe we could. But at the time, there had been 40 separate PWs. That is, when people think we're getting checks, it's actually a PW is an invoice asking for payments. There were 40 separate invoices signed, and we got the money. $3,754,000. $3,754,000. We received that on 40 different invoices. But on invoice 41, I was called to the table because it was $42 million. Now, I think anyone would sit up and take a look at that and say, wow, how did we go from 3.7 to $42 million? So when the PW, the pay request, came to me, not a check, to sign on a dotted line to certify that the information that was within that PW, which was probably as thick as these invoices right here, I said, no. Let's stop. Let's take a look. But let me read to you exactly what that official document says. Put yourself in the parish president's shoes. It says, I hereby certify that I am knowledgeable of the guidelines for public assistance funding, record keeping and documentations required for FEMA public assisted grant payments, and that I am authorized to execute the certification document on behalf of Livingston Parish. I also certify that all of the records, documents relating to the claims for the work related to this project worksheet will be available for review by any interested parties by the project closeout, means audit time. These documents must be available for inspection by FEMA and federal auditors on request and will be maintained for these purposes by the parish for at least 3 years. A $42 million PW that we went from 3.7 to 42, and I said, slow the train down, let's take a look. We called in FEMA teams to take a look. It didn't take them about 2 weeks, and we found a bunch of ineligible debris. On top of that, we started receiving a lot of complaints from the public, and that's where we are. Where we're in the future, at least we don't owe the $42 million, because most of it has been deemed ineligible. I think the parish has collected so far about $11 million and paid that out. I can tell you, when you sign a PW, you get that into your account. It's drafted directly into your account. It is not a check. You have 3 days to disperse those funds. So had we received $42 million, I couldn't bankroll it. I couldn't draw interest on it. I had 3 days to disperse it and pay it. But because we went from 3.7 to 42, I felt like on the edge of caution to slow it down and take a look at it. And I'm very thankful for what I know now compared to what I know then. In that courthouse, when I took a beating the night I stopped it, I have no regrets. And I think what we'll see in the months to come you'll understand why we stood up and said no. So where do we head with the future with it? I'm simply here to tell you we don't owe $42 million. Okay, any other questions? Yes, sir. Those 40 invoices were signed by the Director of Homeland Security, Brian Faber. He was authorized to do so. Like I said, he signed the first 40, and I understand 3.7 million is one number, but when you jump from that to 42 million, even he stopped with caution. So that's certainly when I got to it, took the time to take a look at it, and I had questions. And from there, we are where we are today. So did we make the right decision? Absolutely, yes, ma'am.
It's my understanding that there's been a suit filed the last day or so against you personally, and I'm not exactly sure if it's by Mr. Faber or someone from that group, that alleges that you made some illegal or negative defamation type remarks in the mail out. Has there been such a suit filed, and what's your position on that? If you can, I don't know if you can see it, but will the parish council support you as far as legal counsel for that, or is that another matter that you will now have to defend on your own?
I'll defend that on my own, first of all. But second of all, I've not been served the suit. I read about it by Bob Anderson just like you did. So I can't say I'm not aware of it. It's out there, no doubt. But I've not officially been served any suit. So to tell you what it says at this point, I really don't know. But we'll take that one on and deal with it. If it is in reference to the commercial or to the web page, as you notice, we have references to each and every one of the things that we said. So we'll just have to wait till we get served and go from there. What we did read in the paper from Bob Anderson, I have had some attorneys call and say, look, we're willing to help you. We're willing to be part of the defense team. So when I get that, I can make a little more comment about it. Yes, sir.
Speaking of lawsuits, where are we at with the IED lawsuit?
That's a good question. We have been advised that has been on hold, although I think there is some movement in it. We certainly should, I think, we should have already, the fact that we do have a lawsuit, we should have already been prepared, had a lawyer and ready to go with it. But at this point, I understand that the DA has negotiated with IED to hold off until the appeals come down. That's the last word that I got. Where we are from there, I don't know any more than that. Any other questions? Now's a good time, folks. Yes, sir, Mr. Logan.
Mr. Delisay reported to the papers down an investigation by a parish attorney. Yet, about 2 years ago, I approached Mr. Honeycutt about an investigation by the DA's office, a parish grand jury he had called. Later, 2 weeks later, I approached Mr. Taylor about that. He said at that time his office does not do investigations, which within the last couple of days now his office is going to do an investigation of Mr. Delisay. We've asked, the council asked for investigation on this mysterious person that offered to give him counsel or advice on getting jobs done and what have you. Why all of a sudden Mr. Perry won't pull the investigation on Mr. Delisay when he's told me out in the hallway in the council chamber that his office does not do investigations.
Mr. Lovett, not to give you a short answer, I'm the parish president, and I can answer parish president questions. That would be one that needs to be directed to the DA. I couldn't answer that. Not to cut you short. I've not been advised, I've not been asked anything about that. Again, I saw that on television just like you. Yes, ma'am.
Getting back to the HUD housing Section 8 discussion that we had earlier, I understand and appreciate your opposition for the HUD project that we had in Watson and the proposed flats at 447 in Walker. In both of those instances, I understand that you were involved in the grant application, and then of course you had received a request to send a letter of support to the application for the flats at 447. But when we were discussing that and Juban Crossing came up, and you explained how that happened, they had applied for those tax credits as well. They made their application or request for support to the council. You were not involved, and I assume that's why you were not in opposition. All that being said, and you've also voiced very loudly your opposition to any of that in our parish. What can you do or your office do that's going to help to protect us in the future? Because I doubt very seriously if those people applying are going to come to you for support. So,
I would think that would be pretty obvious they're not.
what can you do to protect us?
I think what we all have to do, and I think if you remember, after the meeting in Watson, which the gymnasium was full in opposition, I warned everyone then, we're wide open for this now. Let's all be on our toes. We're going to have to watch the applications at the Planning Commission. We're going to have to let our council know how we stand on those projects. We're all going to have to be on our toes. That's the only thing we can do. The only time I'm going to get involved on the Watson project, as you know, that application was signed by council, not by me. The one in Walker was a letter of support, so therefore I was on the front line. There appears to be a mechanism to get a resolution passed and go through the Planning Commission to the council. So I think we need to hold our council and our Planning Commission accountable for those projects to let you know.
Is it possible that your office could have a special task force that was just maybe, just like you try and recruit and bring business to the parish, is there someone who could actually be like a watchdog to let the public know that these types of things?
Well, there is a requirement for a public hearing. There is a requirement, just like on the loop, for public input. Again, we can watch it much closer because we were not aware that those projects were moving. Now we watch them all. And I think the new council will watch them all. I think the groups will watch them all. Because if you want one of those in your backyard, you can get it pretty easy. But we're going to have to stand up on these projects that we oppose, and we've got to stand up with a united front. And I think that's pretty powerful. So we all have to be on guard. Don't only put it on the responsibility of your parish president or your council. Let's all be watchful of what's going on these agendas. Yes, sir.
Are you working with DOT as far as getting 190 widened and, all these projects are working together and these studying done for 190, where we stand?
Well, we all are working. I don't think there's one elected official over another can take credit for I-12 or take credit for expanded Juban Road. We're all working together on that. It takes all of us, again, putting up a united front to get those kind of projects done. The council has graciously helped fund the delegation of our state delegation to help them pull together as a region, and I think they've done pretty well in getting funding. That takes help from the parish president, from the parish council, our representatives, our senators, our congressmen. It takes a little bit of everyone, and then certainly getting the governor on board. When you look at I-12, that was a very concerted effort by this parish to get that work done. We all need to remember that I-12 was built in the mid-70s, and no expansion on 12 was done until this project. Now, they like to say that they threw $100 million at Livingston Parish, but you got to remember from O'Neill to the Amid River, to the middle of the Amid River, is not Livingston Parish. So we're very thankful to get what we've got. Now they're now letting the contract go from Juban to Walker. I think that's going to be a big help, but that is not, and I've said this 100 times, that is not going to solve all of our traffic problems. So we have to find some alternative ways. But I think the chance to answer your question takes all of us. It's not just me, it's not just another elected official. Yeah. Yes, sir.
What's the status of the master plan and if it's installed, are we in danger of losing the money for it? And what's installed?
Bob, we have time on the master plan. It's not that we're going to lose the funding for the master plan. I think in the midst of all of the election, everybody just took a step back. We'll get that back up and running again. The master plan is very important. That was one of the things, if you remember, we seeked funding for because we didn't have the funding. But I think the master plan will come back to the forefront, I hope we get citizen involvement in that, and we get people engaged in the master plan so that we can do it parish-wide.
Is the current mechanism sufficient, or does it need to be changed? The mechanism of putting the plan together?
The mechanism to put the plan together was chosen by the council. It's obvious that that has stalled somewhat. I think we probably need to change that mechanism. I have suggested taking resumes from public. Let's pick some good people that want to be civically involved and people that are engaged in the parish and want to take a look at helping us to get the master plan going. Any other questions? Yes, sir. Mr. Whitman.
I don't know if you noticed recently, driving down several roads, green water on the side of the roads, raw sewage. Besides the health issue, according to state and federal law, you can't have 4-lane to 2-lane road without sewage on the road to take care of the runoff. Also, a big company, business, endeavor can't build and establish a business without having sewage to dump their wastewater. So, Livingston Parish is road has this potential. Do we have any plans for a parish-wide sewage treatment system?
As you know, we did have by the Corps of Engineers, a parish-wide study that cost approximately $90 million for us to go across the parish, with an operating expense of about $4.5 million a year. The existing sewer districts are expanding. The city of Denham Springs, as you know, expanded out to Juban Crossing. As you know, we also had an application in for Juban Road with Farmers Home. The issue was the commercial that was taken on Juban disqualified us for that. Sewer bills right now. Does anyone know what a sewer bill is in Baton Rouge right now? Baton Rouge, anybody? You guys, you Luke guys, you know?
Sorry?
A sewer for Baton Rouge, what is the average sewer bill right now? 60? 50? 50 to $60. Certainly there's no doubt we need to expand sewer and we need to expand water. We've got to come up with some way to do that. That takes money to do that. If we can engage our districts to expand like they're expanding right now, then we need to assist them to do that. The new district that was created for below Denham Springs, I think they're having a very difficult time to get people to sign on, as you know. But you're absolutely right. The sewer has got to go out of these ditches before we can get any highway projects approved. Yes, sir.
Is there any way that the developers of the property can do the infrastructure first before they start building housing? That's the way to do it over North Texas.
And that's presently the way they do it now. What Mr. Pepper's talking about is areas like Juban Road that has been there for quite a while. Those homes have been there a long time. You're talking about expanding the road, so you need to do something with sewer. Where you're talking about in Juban Crossing, the mechanism that's going to build, or where they're going to build the housing unit, they are going to be responsible to have sewer there. So they do that on new developments now. What Mr. Pepper's talking about is areas that have been established for a while and do not have sewer. And we have a lot of areas that do not have water systems. We're seeking grants and getting grants. Holden Sewer is one. By Barber Water System, Warsaw Water and Sewer, Bruce's Harbor Water and Sewer, so we're expanding. And again, you got a lot of rural areas out there.
It just seemed like the last council meeting, Sewer District 1 and 2, want to expand what can be done for, they say, 20 years. I mean, why can't they make these requests for a smaller area rather than trying to overreach?
Well, then again, it's how do you pay for it? And I think what they're looking at is trying to get some territory so that when housing does pick up, or the population does pick up, it's feasible for them to build. A lot of these projects, they do feasibilities on them. If the sewer bills are running 40 and 50 bucks, it's just not feasible for them to fund. And that's kind of what we're caught up in now. Yes, ma'am.
Last question.
I would like to ask you to paint a picture for us of what you feel the vision for Livingston Parish is.
Well, Julie, I will tell you this. You know, when we started back with the TIF on Bass Pro, there was a lot of people said it couldn't happen. We had a library system that was failing. There's a lot of people said that we couldn't change that. Then when we did build libraries, a lot of folks said we were building Taj Mahals. I think we got libraries we can be proud of. We're very proud of our libraries. We're very proud of our school systems, and we're very protective of our school systems because we have funded them, we have supported them, and we continue to support them. And every dollar that we can bring in good jobs, whether it's big or small, when you look at Sam's just talked about an estimated $100 million a year. That's a lot of money, and that's a lot of sales tax. I think we have to continue that path to get a good sales tax base here. Us and Ascension are a lot alike in a lot of ways, except budget. You know, Ascension's budget is $130 million, ours is $30 million, and we virtually try to do the same thing they do. So I think our goal for the future is to grow and to grow wisely. We need more retail. We need to keep our tax dollars here. All of the years of shopping that we've done has gone across the river. It's helped their overlay programs. It's helped their police departments. It's helped their schools. It's time to bring it home. And I think Juban Crossing is one that will do that. I think the 10th at Bass Pro is another one that will do that. We need to continue that path. We need to continue to seek grants, grow across the parish. We've been working with an iron manufacturer to go at Albany that finally came in probably a week ago. That's finally going to build a plant at Albany, an iron manufacturing plant that will start out with 50, end up with about 200 to 300 jobs in just a few years. They'll get a lot of job credits, but we'll get a lot of jobs out of it. I went back out to 4 hours yesterday to take a look at the fire truck people, and they are building right now, I think 30 or 40 fire trucks for just New York City. How in the world do you fund 40 fire trucks at $1 million a piece? But when you go out there and you see that parking lot full, all of those people are working. And that's what we have to do for the future. We need to bring jobs here. Burson Southern came in. We brought people into the industrial park at Walker. The iron manufacturing is going to Albany. One we all kind of grin about is South Satsuma exit. Who would have ever thought that South Satsuma would look like it looks today? But all it takes is just going out there and hustling them up and bringing them in. And now we have 2 medical facilities. You know what the Lady Lake is doing with their 200 acres. You see them working every day. We have to continue that path. I think it's important for us. It's important for our kids. It's important for our future. So that is the picture that I paint for the future. Let's get a council and we'll work together and we'll pull together. Let's go out and give them. They're ready to come. All we have to do is open arms and invite them.